We look a lot more at user-facing, and this was one of your later questions about what are the other things from web-scale businesses that enterprises aren't doing, and this is service to the user, that all of this is infrastructure masturbation. If at the end of the day we're not actually delivering apps.
Trademark. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
line.
that we're not building apps that serve the user. So you're not sitting there. You don't have, when you're in an enterprise app, you have a captive audience, and you say, you use this billing system. This is the billing system you have to use. That doesn't work in the consumer space. If your invoicing system, the one I use is Harvest. It's the best of the worst. But it's still better than anything I used before. If it wasn't better than everything else, I would move on to anything else. So we build apps. We do user studies, we do UX, we pair design and development. We're trying to build apps that actually make the world a better place for the users. And this sort of service to your end user thinking could be applied a lot more to the enterprise. And I think it is one of the harder approaches. If you're used to, we have a very defined, constrained system that we're going to build to an exact spec instead of how could we actually make our users' lives better. That's one of, I think, the harder cultural shifts to bring to the enterprise.
So I guess if I'm going to say, how do you measure it? I'd say, my flip answer is it's about time to value. But if you kind of try to break that down and unpack it, it would be time to get an MVP done, time to change the application, and then site uptime or availability. And those are the three things that I think if everybody's on the same mission together, it forces the DevOps mentality. I always, when I like to talk about a story about DevOps, I always bring up Amazon, right? Because Chris Brown, who was the lead developer on EC2, who sits on my advisory board, he told me the story of the early days, and Amazon was trying to scale up, and they had thousands of products or services already, and they couldn't train the operators on them. There just wasn't enough time, and the operators couldn't come up to speed on all of them. So that's when they did that shift, and they said, you developers are responsible for the uptime of your individual product. And they had the operators build a common set of tools that all those guys had to consume. And, I just think that kind of rethink of sort of the methodologies is driven largely by how quickly can we get a new product out, how quickly can we make changes to existing products, and how do we make sure the site is up all the time?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's about velocity. It's about time to value. How is an enterprise where I have a set number of developers and I have a set number of applications, do I increase my throughput? And what technologies and processes can I use to actually implement that? But I think your description was spot on.
In development, we have the measure of agile velocity, which is number of story points per project. Those sort of metrics, I'd be a little sketchy about applying across teams.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, can your company right now deliver a new app in 6 weeks or 6 months, or does it take 18 months? Like 6 months is a long time in the consumer space. If you're not at the point that in 6 weeks you can have something tested in people's hands and being iterated on, then until you get to that point, you don't even know what you're missing. That it's hard to compare apples and oranges when you're talking orders of magnitude of what you're measuring here. So, yeah.